Hi everyone. I'm Yhnell. I'm a senior lecturer here in Cardiff, and it's great to welcome you all to Cardiff to host an educational research conference here. So today I'm going to be focusing in on some of the ways I've tried to make my lectures a bit more engaging. So I started my role back in September 2019. So I had about 6 months of normality before what happened. But my background is all about science communication and the public understanding of science and public engagement in science. So whether it's going to the centre of Cardiff and jumping on a soapbox and talking to people about DNA, or writing books about science, or going into schools and teaching kids to do brain surgery on blancmange brains, I'm all about getting the story of science out there and thinking about how we can communicate different messages to different audiences. So when COVID hit, I had about 6 months of experience giving lectures. And I don't know about all of you, but when you started going into your online meetings, whether it was Zoom or Teams, there's always that slightly awkward element where you all kind of enter the room, nobody really knows what to say, people are maybe checking their emails a bit, everyone's kind of just waiting, right? Did anyone else kind of experience that? Yeah. So originally I thought, okay, what can I do to kind of make people feel a bit more comfortable? Many of our students hadn't met us as academic staff, and it was all just a little bit awkward, really. So I thought, I will play them some music. So this started off with copyright-free elevator music, which was fine, but maybe a little bit boring in terms of music. And then I decided to create some mini discos for our students. So I would put a request out to our students and say, next week's lecture is on excitable cells. If anybody's got any requests that they want me to play for them, please let me know. Does anybody want to guess the top request for the excitable cells lecture? No pressure. It might not be what you expect. I was also a little bit worried that my love of 90s pop music might be revealed to the undergraduate students. We're going to play it in a minute anyway. So, of course it is. I'm so excited. But what does this do? So this, from our, oh no, that's not going to stop. From our undergraduates, that was their top choice for the Excitable Cell lecture. And actually, this was really great because it meant that they were looking forward in the timetable. They were thinking, okay, what's coming up next? What can we suggest? And it wasn't necessarily the songs that you might have expected either. And they competed with each other. They were trying to outdo each other. There's only a certain amount of songs I can play, right, before the lecture starts. And I also gave them playlists at the end of the sessions as well. One of the other ways that I sought to engage students was through wellbeing polls. So we really kind of saw this earlier, but the well-being of our students, our staff, of everybody took a hit, right? So I introduced simple wellbeing polls at the beginning of my lecture, and it asked the students one really simple question, and that was, how are you? I'd not met most of the students, they hadn't met me, but this was maybe a minute of my time inviting them to check in with themselves and asking them how they were. This was also great because it allowed me an opportunity to test the technology, because I use lots of polling and interactivity in my lectures, and also the opportunity to signpost to support through student services as well. And, there were some interesting options in there. I'd say, how are you? And I'd range from doing really well today to I'm struggling, or Wales won the rugby at the weekend, things like that. That didn't happen a lot, I have to say, last year, sadly. But yeah, the wellbeing polls went down really well. And actually, one of the main items of feedback from the students was, it was so nice that a lecturer thought to ask how we are. And that is sad, but, I think we're quite telling as well. Also through the wellbeing polls and the polls in general, I included lots of polls to test kind of acquisition, looking at whether they were paying attention, because, I get it, at the end of the day, being glued to a screen for the whole day is really tricky. So wellbeing polls went down really well. One of the other things that I added were draw-alongs. So draw-alongs just with a simple webcam and a template, which I popped up on our learning environment before, so students could either print that if they had access to a printer or draw it, and then just drew the reflex during the lecture live. This went down really well because it gives them a revision aid as well at the end, and really just helps them understand topics that they can struggle with. Interestingly, I've done a little bit of analysis in end of module exams. It does look like there was some improvement in terms of knowledge acquisition as well. The other thing I love is a demonstration and a prop. So here are some screenshots of me with cuddly neurons and shining lights in my eyes to demonstrate the pupillary reflex. But when we give lectures, sometimes I think it can be really easy to fall into the trap of just delivering content. The moment you crack out a cuddly neuron on camera, the students love it. It's not that difficult. It just adds a bit of breaking up to the lecture as well. And we've got some gummy bears there with various soaked in various concentrations of sugary water. So thinking about demonstrations, and these actually have worked really well when we've returned to normal as well. So my cuddly neuron lights up, and I dimmed the lights last year and got an ooh from the audience, which I was thrilled with that. So innovative teaching, thinking about the polling, the discos, but also the environment. So simple things that if you're comfortable and happy to share your pronouns with your students and the audience. So that really is about the environment that we create for our students, but also thinking about the content as well, how we're presenting that information. So these are some vision changing goggles, and in some of the neuroanatomy lectures that I was giving, looking at the cerebellum, and inviting people to put some vision changing goggles on and then throw a ball to each other. That is a brilliant demonstration. It really gets people thinking, and I think it kind of stands out. It breaks things up. Props as well. I love props, but they can be really simple. Please don't overthink a prop, but please do have a backup plan in case the prop goes wrong, because that can happen sometimes. And then finally, storytelling. So within my lectures, I love to incorporate a bit of me. I kind of treat lectures like performances. So I'm happy to discuss my cats and the motor control of mammals. And I think this is really nice. It's about being authentic and, only share as much as you're comfortable and happy to share. But the fact that the students know my cats are called Peter and Peggy is fine by me. They have made appearances in my lectures. But actually just being authentic and showing the students that we are people too, I think that's really, really important, particularly, given what we've all gone through. So here are some of the student perspectives, focusing in on mini discos. So my module lead was a bit confused when he did a word cloud and the word disco came up in huge letters in the middle. But the students really like these innovative techniques, and importantly, they're really recognising that they really helped in terms of their understanding of sometimes quite complex topics. But really, I just focus in on this one here. You reminded me that people do care, which, it's sad, but I think so important and necessary to really highlight that, we do care. We're in the job because we care, right? And we want to help people with their learning. So challenges and opportunities, this is my final slide. Thinking about these and the time and the resources that we have to do that. So admittedly, we're all time poor, but actually thinking about the way we present the information, the props that we include. So things like lollipop sticks, and they can be really cheap and effective props. Pushing back against those perceptions of traditional lectures. So meeting with my personal tutees, the first tutees that I ever met with, I said, what are you looking forward to in university? And they went, well, lectures are boring, aren't they? And if we can change that, I really, really want to change that. Having backup plans and preparing for when it goes wrong. And then I think confidence and training among staff. It's absolutely, I think, okay to share your favourite pop song with the students. And then importantly, looking at how these techniques and methods translate from online to in person. So with that, just to say thank you and diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much, Emma. We have time for one question, one or two. And I apologize to the person who did ask a question on the Padlet in the session before. I shall bring that question back up at the end. My apologies. Go on.
Love the idea. It's very colourful. Thank you. I was going to ask a question about the music, and did everyone participate? Because music's obviously cultural, cultural capital. And sometimes we can accidentally exclude certain groups of people by focusing on something that others don't have. So how do you encourage everyone?
Yeah, I think it's a really important question, actually. So originally I was saying, send me in your suggestions, but we actually had Padlet, so people could contribute anonymously. But I think the cultural sensitivities are quite key. And you've only got so long as well. So I would regularly get 30, 40 requests. So how do you pick, right? So if I had a few for the same, then I'd kind of prioritize those, but actually making them available at the end of the session. These were the songs that were requested, so that if they want to play them in their own time, then they can.